baby. Come on, baby. Hang on. Look at that. My man. Yeah.
He's so deserving. Good shot. I missed it.
Hey, that was a great jump. I just appreciate you missing my camera. I appreciate you missing my camera.
Let me give you an update.
Now, get this now. This is how far he jumped. Get this now. He had to beat 237.
That's it right there.
And if I get this wrong, Matt's gonna tell me. Get this now. I called 255. He jumped 298 feet. Mason, you
98, 42.
298,
42.
Okay, Tommy Kirby, we gave you a little bit of break. Feed these folks because
Horizontal
man, they done
distance.
worked up an appetite now, baby.
42.
For a new world record officially
Big
surveyed.
tire, big tire.
I am Matt with Bust a Knuckle. I had our buddy Chris Weiss was actually there covering the event where he captured your world record attempt of almost 300 feet. So first and foremost, congrats on that. That is, I mean, anybody's a badass that's even chasing this record. So I just want to give you kudos to start with. I mean, that's crazy. So.
Yeah, I'm Jake Burton. Drive the Wild Child Mega Truck. I'm from Dayton, Ohio. I've been messing with these trucks for, I think this is my 11th year messing with mega trucks. So I don't get to get the truck out as often as I would like to get it out. So I think whenever I do get it out, I just want to do big shit with it.
Right. And this isn't your first rodeo. I mean, you've done a bunch of big jumps in the truck. I mean, you've got quite a few big jumps in the mega trucks and all that good stuff. So first question is, how is the actual record measured? Is it measured from the point that you leave the ramp to whatever lands first, or is it to the rear tires, or how does that work?
I'm not honest. I mean, honestly, I'm not 100%. The way we measure it every time I jump, because it just makes complete sense to me, is measuring from where the truck leaves the ramp. Okay. A lot of times, like if you look at the witness mark on the ramp, the truck actually leaves the ramp before it ever makes it clean to the top. Right. You know, so some guys think, oh, right at the top. Well, you know, you go back and look at witness marks, it might be a foot or so before the top of the ramp. Right. And then for me, it's always the tires that touch first. You know what I mean? Like if the back of the truck touches first, you know, then that's where you measure. If the front touches down first, it's whatever part of the truck touches the ground first. Right. That's the way I measure it. So as far as the record, you know, I don't know. When we talked to Guinness a few years ago, they never really stated anything. They, you know, they just said just document everything, you know, and never gave us like a protocol, you know, where we want to measure here, whatever. Right. But it just makes sense to me. Whatever touches back to the earth first, that's where you touched.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of controversy on the internet right now of whether it counts, whether you should have to drive away from it or how that works. Because then, you know, any kind of freestyle motocross or skateboarding, anything like that, like you got to ride away cleanly. And but it's a little bit different. A mega truck is like something can break and you can roll over. But if all four tires land, you know, I don't know. It's kind of weird. I just want to get your opinion on that.
Yeah, I know there's a lot of people like hating on it and stuff like that. But first and foremost, like if we did like get a record, that's secondary to me. You know, to me, it's just how far can I throw this 8,000-pound tractor-tired truck? You know, and I'm not doing it to run around and brag about having a world record. I'm doing it for myself.
Gotcha.
Like literally, if I had the real estate in my backyard and I could keep the thing band-aided together, I'd do it every Saturday for shits and giggles.
That's awesome.
With nobody watching.
Right.
You know what I mean? So, like, I know people hate on it, and they're like, oh, you didn't roll away, you didn't do this, you didn't do that. Well, it's like, if I would have landed it, done a slap wheelie, rode that shit from one end of that field to the other, hit the brakes, put it on a stoppie, moonwalked back to the start of the ramp, and then got out and slam dunked, I'd have still done something wrong.
Yeah.
It didn't count.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it doesn't make a shit of difference what you do. There's going to be, for every 100 people that dig it, there's one hater in the group that just wants to get his 5 minutes of glory on social media. You know what I mean?
Gotcha.
But
yeah,
I mean, I tend to agree, though. I mean, it does look cleaner when you land and you roll away. I totally get that.
Right.
You know, when Weston did it, I even text Dennis the next day, and I'm like, dude, bro, that was like the cleanest shit ever. I was like, you guys make it look so easy. You know what I mean?
Right.
But yeah, I don't know. I do agree. Like it needs to roll away. You know what I mean? It does.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
I guess that's
But
the big
still,
thing
yeah.
is like there's so many people chasing this same record, you know, I guess. So that's kind of where the
Yeah.
controversy comes from. Is it's like so who is it now? You know what I mean? Is it so Weston or you know what I mean? So that's kind of the controversy in it, which I see both sides of it, but I mean I would have to say it'd have to roll away too. But not to take anything away from it, like you definitely have sent it the furthest and proved that one can make it 300 feet and probably survive. Can you walk me
Yeah.
through what is it like taking off? You had to be doing like 90 miles an hour plus when you hit that ramp. Like what's going through your head when you're hitting that ramp that you can't even see over? You know, what's going through your head?
It's crazy. Like I'm just focused on like steering the truck. You know, I don't know if you've ever driven a mega truck. I'm sure you've been around all the stuff. You know, I mean, those things handle about as good as a combine tractor running down the interstate at 100 miles an hour. You know, a lot of people that do big distant jumps are driving stuff that is purpose built to do that, and they handle like race cars.
Right.
You know what I mean? You point them, stab them, and they usually go. So I'm just focusing on trying to keep that thing down the middle of the ramp. You know, like I focus at the top of the ramp. Like, you know, you like riding a motorcycle, wherever you look is where you're going to go. You know what I mean? So my eyeballs are like fixated on the top of the ramp, but I can feel the truck bouncing and skipping and, you know, jumping all over the place because the tires are, you know, as we know, the tractor tires are like superbly balanced and just insanely round. Not, you know what I mean? So you got 4 basketballs that are weighted all kinds of different on each corner of the truck and just bouncing this shit thing all over the place. So it's a handful to keep straight, you know? So I'm just looking at the top of the ramp, focusing on that, you know, and once I hit the base of the ramp, and it's crazy because a lot of people think they're like, there's no way you can think about all this stuff in the truck. And it kind of wormholes and slows down. Like what takes like 3 seconds feels like 30 seconds. You know what I mean? It's really crazy. It's hard to explain. But so like I hit the middle of the ramp and then I start focusing on the tree line on the opposite end of the field, you know. Because what I found out is like when I'm jumping, you know, and we're doing the throttle rhythm with the tires for that gyroscope effect, you can actually start climbing the air. You know, I did one and the truck was like, I was hammering on the throttle so hard, the truck was like vertical in the air. And I'm just like, okay, I probably should have quit like 10 wraps ago.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because it just kept climbing. So I started focusing on the tree line on the other side. And as soon as the tree lines left the bottom of the cowl panel of the truck, I guess, once they left, that's when I lifted on the throttle, you know, and then as soon as they came back, you know, if it was a start nose diving hard, like you see the tree line and then whoop, all of a sudden you're looking at roots, you know, get back on that gas, man, and start hammering that dude to try to help pick it back up.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, it's just trying to keep the throttle rhythm, you know what I mean? And steering the truck, you know. Yeah, everybody's like, you had to close your eyes. I totally don't close my eyes. You know what I mean? I totally don't, you know. I don't know. It's crazy. There's a lot of stuff that goes through your head, but like I'd seriously just focus on keeping that thing down the middle of the lane as much as possible. Like I got we got GoPro footage underneath the truck and in the cab. And under the truck, you can just watch this thing. Like the front axle's on the straps. As soon as I swap feet, I short shift into high gear pretty quick, and then start just throttling into it. And it's on the straps the entire time. And then you can see how out around the tires are, because it's just dribbling like two basketballs that beat all. So, I mean, you can watch the straps like slack strap, you know, and you can watch the thing veering all over, like left or right. And then on the end cab, you can, I mean, I got my hands on the wheel and I'm constantly keeping it back to the left because it just wants to auger off to the right side of the track or the course or runway or whatever. But yeah, it was fighting it. You know, and it seems like that all the time. Like the first big jump I did, I thought I was going to implode this thing before I ever hit the ramp, dude, because it started hopping and bouncing. I'm like, oh my God. The runway we did it on, it was just nothing but roots and tree trunks and this and that. It was supposed to be tracked in real nice, and we get there, and it looked like a skidder. It just plowed everything over. I'm like, we're probably going to die on this one. This is going to suck. And it starts bouncing all over the place, and you know, you can kind of see it in some of the videos, but unless you're in the truck, it's hard to explain. But it is bouncing. It's bouncing all over the place.
That's wild. What do you think about the whole, like, a lot of people try to loop the monster truck and mega truck thing together. Do you think that they should be separate? I mean, if you make it 300 feet, do you feel like you should have both records? Like, how do you feel about that? Me personally, and the only reason I think that's an issue is because, like, Guinness
they don't think of mega trucks as its own sport, as its own entity, because we're so closely constructed to a monster truck. So when we approached them, you know, a couple years ago, about doing the record deal, and it's crazy, man, because you can't like physically talk to anybody at Guinness. Right. It's all email bullshit. And so it's like $5 to file for a record. You know, if it's a time-sensitive deal, it's $1,000, puts you at the top of the list. Thanks. So I paid $1,000. I was like, we gotta get this shit going, because the one big jump I did, we had like 3 weeks to totally get ready for the whole thing, from like conceiving the idea to tuning the truck to this to that and the other, blah blah blah. 3 weeks. So I paid my $1,000 to Guinness so we could get the ball rolling, and then like 4 months later, they reached out to us and said they were not going to give mega trucks their own deal because we're so closely constructed to monster trucks. And we appealed it, you know, told them, like, listen, I was like, they share similar parts. Right. But when you park the two next to each other, they're drastically different. You know, I feel like my truck is ginormous when I'm in the barn by myself with my truck. I'm like, this is a big one. Right. Well, like the monster truck shows and I park next to them, I'm like, this thing's a miner's go-kart, dude. You know what I mean? Compared to them. They're so like 14. I mean, they're like 14,000 pounds. You said yours was 8, and the old school monster trucks used to be about 10, but like some of them are 14,000 pounds now. And I talked to Joey Sylvester, which I think he's the current monster truck holder at like 230 something feet or something like that. And he said his old one weighed about 10,000 pounds, but now he's in the 14,000 pound range. And so it's just been interesting to see how everybody's going to keep chasing this record and push the limits of these trucks. Yeah, I don't know. I think we're like pissing up a rope with Guinness because they just don't want to hear it. Right. I mean, they're on the other side of the pond. They don't care about us rednecks. You know what I mean? They're not going to give us our own deal, even though they're two totally different trucks. Right. Grant, we do share the same shocks. I use Dan Patrick steering stuff on the rear steer stuff. I use this, use that, blah, 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 blah. You know, we're lighter, and my truck is way faster than a monster truck. But they're totally different trucks. I mean, monster trucks are capable of doing stuff that we can't follow up behind them and do. Right. You know, some freestyle guys in the mega truck world, they can wholeheartedly follow them up, and it's nuts. But they're different, dude. They're different, you know. And I feel monster trucks are monster trucks, and mega trucks are mega trucks. I've never claimed to be able to follow them guys up and do the same shit they can do. Right. Well, the good thing is I think the internet's bigger than Guinness Book of World Records. So, I mean, having it on the internet as the longest mega truck jump probably matters more than Guinness. You know, I guess you can make your own plaque, put it on the wall if you want. When it comes down to it, you know? And I think the coolest thing about it is, like, every time I do a jump or something like that, it's just all the feedback I get from people on social media. They're like, you need a record. I'm like, nah, I'm good. It's I know what I did. Right. You know, I mean, and this and that, and I'm doing it for myself. And the fact that people like appreciate it and they're stoked and pumped about it, that means more to me than some Guinness dust collector sitting on the wall.
Right. Is there a reason why mega trucks don't do a landing ramp? I know Joey's monster truck jump, he had a landing ramp, which should take some of the pressure off the truck when you land.
And I've talked about that a lot here recently with some of my buddies that give me a hand. You know, I'm like, are we at that point where we should do a landing ramp? Going back to what I said before, the truck handles like a combine doing a
right.
You know what I mean? A lot of vehicles, well, except for Joey's, I guess. I could probably eat crow for saying that, but a lot of vehicles that do landing ramps are specifically built vehicles to jump and handle like race cars and will shoot straight as an arrow if you point it.
Right.
Whereas, so if I do a landing ramp, my ramps are typically 20 foot wide. So we'd have to do a landing ramp that was 70 to 75 foot wide, you know, because like if like in my in-cab GoPro stuff, you can watch as soon as the front end leaves the ramp, the back's still under power, and it totally kicks that dude to the right and actually takes it off course. So we landed 15 foot off the center line of the jump to the right. You know, so if I would have had a landing ramp that was 25, 30 foot wide, we'd have clipped the side of it and just barrel roll the shit. Right. Yeah, and I think it's pretty dope going to flat, and you know, I think it's cool. You know,
it's definitely more difficult.
It's definitely more difficult. There's definitely a lot to it. You know what I mean? And you know, and it's funny. Like everybody asks me, like, well, how does this thing act in testing and this and that and the other? And I'm just like, testing. What are you talking about?
That was a test.
I'm like, how did it do in the test jump? I was like, I'm about to watch that shit. You know what I mean? I was like, we're you know, one and done kind of shit, man. You know what I mean? You know, I think I take like every chance I get with the truck and do something with the truck as testing, you know, and take stuff away from it and learn from it. You know, like I didn't have anybody to ask. Like nobody knew that I was trying to go 300 foot. Like the people that did the park and stuff, the ramp dimensions that I gave them, they're like, how far is this going to take you? I was like, probably 195, 200, something like that. Because I was just trying to beat my personal best.
Right.
You know, I was like, but I told them, you have to make it exactly like I tell you to make it. You have to make it like it.
So they did a good job on that?
Well, they piled the dirt, and then I take my buddy Jack Pop, who is probably the Billy Badass's amazing dirt worker that I know. This dude, his shit looks like cake icing when he's done. It is so nice. So that's part of the deal. Like he goes and he grooms it and he tapers it, and you know we get our shit out and make sure it's what I want and stuff, and then he takes care of the runway. So they get the gist of it, and then he goes and plows through it. I mean, he looks like a ballerina on a dozer. It's nuts. Yeah. They did a great job with the ramp. It is amazing. It's amazing.
I saw a post about your suspension setup. Is it something you made a change last minute that you regret?
That's where I was getting ready to go with.
Okay, go ahead. Tell us about that.
Yeah, like that was totally me. That was 100% me. Like I met, you know, like rock bouncers and everybody else. We're constantly dicking with our shit, you know, trying to make it better and better and better. I don't know how many times I've had the valves out of my shocks. I don't know how many, you know, I just constantly take them apart, trying to make it better and better. Well, I have flow controls. I have dual shocks. I got bottom accumulators and top accumulators. I have flow controls on the tops. The flow controls, I think they serve their purpose with mega trucks. If it's a bog truck, you know, you get there, your truck weighs X, you make a rip across the pit, and by the time you get out the backside, it weighs another 1,000 pounds, and you're banging off the bump stops. You just grab a little bit of flow control, and you choke that shock down, you quit banging on the bump stops. So what I found out in the last year and a half messing with my truck is just playing with the valves and then different amount of chrome shaft hanging out, and then playing with the nitrogen pressure has done a lot for me. Like I got the baseline on the valves, and I felt like I was there. So then I really started experimenting with different amounts of shaft, and then bumping up like 50 more PSI on the rear, and then 75 in the back, and this and that, just playing around with that stuff. And I found a really good formula that works for my truck, like great, like amazing, with the flow controls wide open. So them dudes have just been along for the ride for the last year and a half. Well, for some reason, Friday night, I got in my head that I needed to stiffen this thing up a little bit. Well, I got in my head, and I had a couple people in my ear hole telling me we needed to stiffen up. So on those flow controls, like a turn and a half is huge. It's huge. They were like, you need to put 5 turns on it. I was like, have you ever drove a truck with 5 turns on the flow controls? You might as well put jig sticks in there while that shit's silent. You know what I mean? It's not gonna move. I was like, I'll do 2 turns. You know what I mean? So I put 2 turns on it, 2.5 turns. I put 2.5 turns on it. And man, I lost sleep over that shit all night. And I'm like, did I do the right thing? Did I do the right thing? Because we pulled it around out in the field and it was still moving and this and that, a little bit stiffer. I was like, man, that's probably the right call, you know, whatever. And even strapped up in the truck in the woods by myself, because I was strapped up in the truck for like 10 or 15 minutes, I like come a hair like jumping out of the truck and just widening those dudes open, you know, and I so bad wish I would have. Because it hydrolocked the shocks. Like the shock shaft speed did not match the velocity for the landing or whatever, like technical terms for guys that are way smarter than me. But yeah, it just like if you watch the GoPro footage on the bottom of the truck, because there again, we don't get a lot of testing, so I wanted to get as much stuff as I could. So we had GoPro stuff everywhere on the truck. And you can watch as soon as the front end touches, you watch the C's kick and then the shocks fall. And I was like, God damn it. You know what I mean? So that was 100% on me. I think had I just stuck to what I knew and what I figured out with the truck and not dicked with it, you know what I mean? The outcome would have been completely different. Right. Completely different.
You were so close to rolling away from it as it was.
Yeah. And that's what I was just like, are you kidding me, dude? Are you kidding me? It was like, you got, so yeah, that's totally on me, man. It's not on the parts failure or anything like that. That's just me. I made a wrong judgment call on the shocks.
Right. I think that kind of stuff happens to everybody. We always want to tweak stuff last second because we get something in our head we think it's going to get better, and it just sometimes it bites you and sometimes it helps you. You never know. The big question is, are you going to try for that size of a jump again?
Oh, most definitely.
Most definitely.
Most definitely.
What do you think a mega truck or monster truck is actually capable of landing and driving away from, distance-wise?
Just
because 300 feet looks totally doable. Like you made it look totally doable. It looked like Teeny did 225 something feet, and it looked like holy crap, that was crazy. But you made 300 look doable, like absolutely doable. So what's the limit?
My phone has blown up in the last 3 or 4 weeks. You know, a lot of monster truck guys have called me, and you know they're like, man, 2 days before that jump, you said you're going to land that dude in the neighborhood of 300 when he told you you're fucking stupid.
Right.
You know, and like then 2 days later, we watch a video. It's like, holy shit, that's doable. You know? Man, I don't know. I know where I think I could possibly land, but I'm not much of a bragger. You know, like what was talking about with the jump and what I told the people I wanted to hit on and this and that and the other. I hate like writing checks. You know what I mean? And then falling way short and looking like a jagoff. You know what I mean? But I know what I think my truck can do. Well, and then probably not even this truck. This truck might have like found its wall of limitations. You know what I mean? So I don't know. I kind of feel like maybe it's time to possibly build a purpose-built truck. You know what I mean? To achieve a bigger distance that I feel like I can get. I don't know, man. I hate to even say what I think I can do.
Yeah. Something, maybe some trailing arms and leading arms.
Yeah.
Help have you some more travel so you can soak it up more.
Yeah, big travel. Yeah, but it's still got to be a mega truck. You still got to have tractor tires on it and stuff like that.
Right.
That's what I think. That's probably for me. Like and like everybody that's like tripping out over it. I think that's one of the coolest things. Like this 300 foot on an ag tired truck.
Yeah. Not
a 2-wheel drive trophy truck. Not a Subaru rallycross car. You know, this, that, and the other. It's an 8,000 pound mud truck.
Right. He definitely broke the internet with it for sure. It was everywhere immediately. So.
No.
Cool,
no, I think there's definitely longer distances to be had, for sure.
That's awesome.
But yeah, I'm not done by any stretch of the means.
So how bad did it tear the truck up? I mean, is it pretty bad tore up, or is it pretty fixable?
No, dude. The chassis is straight as an arrow. It's all front end stuff. Like the axle housing is still straight. It just popped the C's off. You know, like you're pulling a socket off an extension. You know. As I put those back in the fixture, it's still straight. It's still money. Front shocks, annihilated. Front bump stops are toast. Popped one link bar. front tie bar, a rear bump stop. And then when the truck did the first flip, it like tapped the rear end. And when I got home, I was kind of checking the truck out, and my bump stops versus my strike pads on the rear axle were off. And I'm like, what the hell? And I'm looking at the frame, and I'm doing this, doing that. I'm like, straight. I mean, I'm straight edging it, string lining it. I'm like, what the hell? But I looked at link bars. One link bar is like considerably shorter than the others on the adjustment. I'm like, I know I squared that dude up. Sure enough, it accordioned the threads. It like popped it and stuffed the Heim joints into the bungs.
Wow.
Yeah, I was like, holy shit, that's pretty dope.
That's crazy. So,
yeah.
Were you sore a few days? Like, first off, like that was a pretty rowdy wreck, and the fact that you were out of the truck like almost immediately and like taking pictures in front of it was pretty badass. Like, were you sore? Like, it's never the next day. It's like a couple days later. Were you like crazy sore, or did like your safety equipment just knock it out?
No, I was anticipating that. I told my wife, I was like, I'm probably gonna feel like a train wreck tomorrow. Like I got hit by a bus. My adrenaline's gonna be so pumping on Saturday, like I'm probably gonna jump out of there like no big deal. But no, literally I was not. And that's what people are like, dude, your back's gotta be a wreck, it's gotta be a wreck. I've had 2 back surgeries in the past, and I wasn't sore at all. The only thing that come out of it, I partially detached the retina in my left eye.
Oh.
So I had to have laser surgery done on my left eye that Tuesday.
Dang.
No, that Wednesday to burn it all back together.
Jeez.
So I've been dealing with that. So now I got all these. I look a little bit like a crackhead sometimes because I'll see like what I think is a bug, doing all this stuff. It's just black dots floating around in my left eye.
Oh.
So, but they said that should go away.
Well, that's good. That's the last thing I think you would think would happen when you're in a wreck. But I guess that's something you got.
Well, I have a race pack on the truck, so it can pull like lateral and accelerometer stuff off of it. And it went from 1.7 G's off the top of the jump to negative 5.5 when it landed.
Wow.
So it's like a 7G sweep,
It's insane. And to get out and walk away from that, it's just absolutely nuts.
Yeah, and I owe that. I really feel I owe that to like the seat belts and the construction. I built my own truck myself, so I'm pretty confident the truck's not gonna let me down. But the seat is absolutely amazing. The Butler built seat. I mean, I wouldn't sell that thing for the world.
Oh yeah. Were they purposely built to you?
Yeah. It's like having a tailored suit made, like measure us and this and that. I told them I was like stuff the hips tight. I was like, I gave them the measurement on my helmet. I was like, add some padding in there. I was like, I want to have to shove that bitch in there, you know? So when I get in the truck, and then, obviously, like, I think maybe some of the rack bouncer guys and whatnot, but monster truck guys do it. They got ratchets on the belts. So I crank them things down as hard as I possibly can. And then my buddy gets in the truck, and it takes probably about 10 minutes to get strapped up. And, like, I tug on them as much as possible. I'll sit there for a little bit. I'll exhale, and then he rips on those dudes and then cranks on the ratchets and this and that to the point where I like it when I can't feel my hands. I can't feel my hands. My legs start going numb because it's cutting off blood. Yeah. And then you're taking like little short breaths, just not even a normal breath, just because of chest. I told my buddy, I was like, we're probably breaking ribs today. I was like, this shit is tight, But and then he's got to shove my helmet in the seat. Right. Like when I put it on, I can't get my head all the way back against the rest, so he pushes my head in there. But I think that's the key, man. I just see so many people getting tossed around in their truck, and or even guys jumping to rallycross cars. They don't run containment seats and stuff, and it's just the head's all bouncing around there. Right. But I've knocked myself out in the truck before. I had a Kirky, and I don't want to drop names, but I had a Kirky seat, like sprint car containment seat in there. Man, I jumped it and landed, and the front sway bar is crazy tight, and it was really rugged. Or the landing was like choppy as all get out. So like the front was getting on the sway bar really hard, and it bounced me left and right on the containment, and I like damn near passed out in the truck, like everything like wormhole down to this little tiny circle, and then come back, and I'm like, I think I just about passed out. Wow. And I was seeing stars for 5 days after that. As soon as I got home, I chucked that seat out in the driveway and then called Butler. That's crazy. And dude, that seat is a game changer. Everybody goes to the parks and they see the end result of all the blood, sweat, and tears and stuff. I told my daughter, I was like, somebody could make a show out of any of the off-road stuff, but just what it takes to get up to that point. At our level, it's like all grassroots shit. I ain't got no money behind me. You know what I mean? I got a toter home and a clapped out mega truck now. You know what I mean? But that's it. And I don't know how many times we've loaded that truck, broke, like put it at the house, drug it on the trailer, broke, went where we're going because some dude had a part we needed, fix it in the parking lot, jump it, break the shit again, load it again. You know what I mean? It's like, I don't know if we're just like glutton for punishment or whatnot, but it's definitely a love for the sport. And I think something like that would be cool if people could see that, all that stuff that leads up to it.
Right.
Because everybody's like, man, I'd love to have a mega truck. Would you really? How bad do you want one?
Right.
You know what I mean? How deep you want to go? How
bad do you want it? Right. It's kind of like any kind of off-road racing. It's like you can become a millionaire racing just about anything off-road if you start out a multimillionaire.
yeah, no shit. If you got money,
right?
I mean, that's like when I was a kid, I had pipe dreams of being a top fuel driver, top fuel dragster.
Yeah.
And I thought when I was a kid, you just you start out the bracket ranks, you do really good, you show off, you win races, and then Budweiser calls you and say, hey, we want you to drive our car. I didn't realize them top fuel drivers are loaded.
Yeah.
They own that shit themselves. You know what I mean? And then they win races, then sponsors throw their money. I was like, oh, so that shit's made of unobtainium. I ain't never going to have that, But,
hey,
it's a lot of work getting there, dude, but it's fun.
Oh yeah. Well, hopefully you can you show that on your YouTube channel. We'll plug it. We're going to show everybody's YouTube channel so people can see a little bit more behind the scenes stuff. So hopefully you can cover something like that. And then if you ever want to collaborate with us, we'll be happy to come out and shoot some stuff with you if you're going for another big record somewhere. So this is the kind of stuff we like. I mean, anytime someone's pushing the absolute envelope of the sport, we're all about.
So I've already talked to like a bazillion people that are in on board for me building another truck, like a purpose-built long jump mega truck. Because my truck I race it, I freestyle it, I jump it, I do this, do that. It's not purpose-built for that. But I really dig doing this. This is all I really give a shit about doing, is I don't even care about dragging the thing through the mud anymore.
Right.
So I'm like, so I talked to some guys, in lieu of absolutely cutting that truck to pieces again, which I don't want to do. And start from ground zero, man. Like you said, trailing arms, leading arms, big, huge travel. Pull the Hemi out of the truck and put it in the new truck because that's like the most powerful motor I've ever sat in front of. It's just stupid. It's a TFX Alan Johnson billet aluminum Hemi.
Hell yeah, that's badass.
Dude, I'm open-minded as shit.
Awesome.
Everybody's got their opinions. Like, I don't even read the comments. Dude.
Yeah.
My daughter gets wound up.
Oh, I bet.
Gets wound up on that shit. Saturday night when we jumped, a half a dozen of my buddies that were there giving me a hand, they were fuming. And I just walked around ripping phones out of their hands. They're like, what are you doing? And I was like, those phones, dude.
Right.
I was like, it wouldn't have mattered. I told the exact same thing I told you. I was like, we landed on the back tires, rode that bitch out on a big wheelie, did a stoppie and come back and this and that and the other. I was like, we'd have done something wrong.
Right.
I was like, you're always going to have that and you're going to fucking drive yourself crazy, giving in to the haters. I told him, I was like, the one cool thing, I was like, you either like it or you love it, or you think it's bullshit, or you think it's cool. I was like, you're still watching it, you're still giving it views. You know what I mean? You're still getting plugs.
Right.
I was like, that's why Whistling Diesel's a multi-millionaires.
Right.
Because of haters. If it wasn't haters, he probably wouldn't have went nowhere.
Yeah. And the greatest thing is the haters have no idea.
They're just clueless.
Yeah, they're just
all
making
they want
money.
to be like, oh, did you see that comment I made on Facebook? Blah blah blah. Yeah, one dude liked it, and I think that was your mom.
Yeah.
It's just hilarious. I don't know, dude. Like I said, I do it for myself. I give two shits if I actually have a record. You know what I mean? I know how far I sent the truck. I truly know what I'm capable of doing, and it's not even close. I don't feel like I'm even close to where I think I could land.
Oh yeah, awesome, man. Well, we're pumped to see how this unfolds and see how far you could push the truck, and hopefully landing a 300+ foot jump will be freaking epic. So, like I said, thank you so much for taking the phone call with us. This was a lot of fun getting to know you and hearing about your experience with the jumping and everything. But yeah, couldn't have been better, man. It was a wild jump, and we really appreciate you telling us all about it, telling your story.
I know, man. I appreciate you reaching out. I really do. It means a lot.
Cool.
It really does.
Awesome, man.